Coming up on this edition of Chris 6 Sunrise, we have the latest out of Taft after council voted to approve funds for the defense of its former city secretary.
And here's what other stories we're covering in your neighborhood.
Levels in Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon have led the city of Beeville to act.
Our water levels are at a very critical low stage.
I'm Adam Beam with what residents need to know now that Stage 4 restrictions are here.
I'm Stephanie Molina in Kingsville, looking into what led to the closure of a local clinic and what neighbors have to say about it.
Good morning, folks. Happy Friday and welcome to Chris 6 Sunrise. You're waking up with the Hoffmans. I'm Michelle Hoffman.
And I'm Brian Hoffman. Oh, what a great Friday. It is a bit of a long week, but looking forward to that weekend. Yeah. So many different cool events we got planned, by the way. Coming up on Coastal Bend Weekend, you'll get a sneak peek. But for now, let's check on in with meteorologist Stephen Jones. How you doing, Mr. Jones?
Good morning.
Oh, doing pretty good. Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing this day?
Fantastic.
It is Friday. It's the end of the week. We made it. Of course, like you said, a little bit of a longer one. Of course, lots of changes going on. Of course, we missed Diamond as well. It was nice having her here. But the traffic out there looking pretty good and green across the entire Coastal Bend for us, or at least across Corpus Christi. You could see the Harbor Bridge here, good and green coming from Portland, or to or from, I should say. Then as we get a good look at our major thoroughways, Ocean Drive, just a very minor slowdown there. SPID looking good and green. Saratoga as well, pretty good, except near Crosstown Expressway, just expect just a very minor slowdown at that. Over towards the Flower Bluff area, just pretty much good and green, just very minor there on Waldron Road, as well as you're approaching the gate there at Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, so keep that in mind. Here's a look at some of those drive times. Downtown to the island, 22 minutes. Portland to downtown, about 8 minutes right now. Cal Allen to downtown, sitting at 15 minutes, so all good and green. So as we go into the later half of the half hour, we'll see more news and weather on the way as well.
Hey, thank you so much, Stephen. We do appreciate you. So we are going to be getting to some news here in a minute. Sorry, prompter's catching up there. Over in Taft, the city council actually did approve a resolution in which the city will provide funds for the defense of its former city secretary. On Wednesday, Chris 6 reported that interim city secretary Jessica Gonzalez is facing criminal charges for failing to respond to a public information request. The vote Thursday means that the city will pay for Gonzalez's criminal defense, with city attorneys noting that it is due to the alleged offense being tied to her professional duties. However, the resolution also specifies that Gonzalez would be required to repay all legal expenses if she's found guilty.
The water woes of the Coastal Bend continue. On Thursday, the city officially entered a water emergency, or Stage 4, now calling on the state to assist in funding alternative and secondary sources of water. According to the interim city manager, the city is currently using 3 million gallons of water per day. But under Stage 4, they are calling on residents and larger users to bring that usage down to 2.5 million gallons per day. And while the city still needs to amend its current Stage 3 ordinance to reflect this new declaration, the amendment would come with new penalties for users. Under Stage 3, a first violation gets you a written warning followed by a $100 fine, which would increase with each subsequent penalty. But if amended, there is no warning.
Adam, thank you so much. So keep in mind, folks, the city of Corpus Christi does tell Chris 6 News that Beeville's actions do not have an impact on our water use policies. The city still expects to enter a level 1 water emergency in November 2026. So here's what a level 1 water emergency entails. Level 1 can be declared when the city manager or a designee determines that the city is within 180 days of its total water supply not meeting its water demands. All residential, wholesale, and large volume or industrial water users will have to cut back on their water use immediately. Irrigation of landscaped areas would be prohibited, and use of water to wash vehicles, boats, trailers, or any other type of motor vehicle would also be prohibited. For businesses, water use not related to their business would also be curtailed.
The Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation's clinic in Kingsville closed on Tuesday, October 7th. The clinic sent letters to neighbors notifying them of its closure. The Sister Elizabeth Clinic opened in 2022. A lifelong Kingsville neighbor who preferred to stay anonymous says having the nearby clinic available was a blessing. But now that it's closed, access to a local medical care has been limited for them. I reached out to Claiborne County Judge Rudy Madrid. Judge Madrid says it was the foundation's decision to close. The facility is owned by the county, who provided the space to the foundation at no cost. The foundation told Chris 6 News they had received no additional financial funding from the county to cover staff costs. Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation CEO Bill Helcher says they had reallocated staff and cut anything they could to make it work, but Judge Madrid wanted to go a different direction. Judge Madrid says he plans to move forward with the clinic.
So the 5th annual Coastal Bend Flags of Valor is less than a month away, and volunteers are needed to make the event happen. The event, formerly known as the Coastal Bend Field of Honor, will be held at the fairgrounds in Robstown. It features 1,000 American flags arranged in the shape of a cross to honor all veterans living or deceased. Now, a flag assembly work party will be held today at 10 a.m. at the Cal Allen VFW Post 3837 on Leopard Street. It begins at 10 a.m. and will continue until all the flags have been assembled. Volunteers of all ages are welcome.
Well, getting a good look at our USS Lexington cam thanks to First Community Bank. 74 degrees, winds out of the north 6 miles an hour, and traffic flowing right along the Harbor Bridge there. Of course, a good look at our past 10 hours as well. A decent but slow cool down at that for the most part. For most of our night, from 82 at 8 p.m., 80 degrees there by 4 a.m. and just in the past hour have had a decent cool down from 79 at 5 down to 74 degrees is what we reported at about 6 a.m. just a few minutes ago. So a decent cool down there, and current temperatures now sitting at that 74 degree mark, closer to the coast. 81 at the Naval Air Station, 83 in Port Aransas right now, and more inland. That's where we're seeing the coolest temperatures at Beeville, 70 degrees, as well as Freer over there sitting at 70 right now. So pretty cool start to our Friday. And as we're getting a good look at that Doppler radar, you can see not too much activity. Everything we did see off towards the south also has since started to dissipate, and that's going to be the nature of these showers going through the morning hours. They're going to be very quick, very brief, very quick to be out of your way, in fact, as you're driving around or if you just see one passing overhead. And you can see that here on the Future Tracker, 8 a.m., just a couple more cells trying to pop up, and really through that 10 a.m., 12 p.m., heading towards the lunchtime time frame, that's where we could still see one or two into some of our southern communities. But overall, 9 times out of 10, not going to be seeing rain today for the majority of the coastal bend. Even towards your dinner time frame, that's where we're going to be sitting pretty high and dry. Even in terms of the cloud cover, shouldn't see too much out there. And heading into your Saturday, plenty of sunshine on the way, which sounds great for the beach. But if you do have beach plans, just keep in mind that rip current risk is a little bit elevated as we're heading into this weekend. Of course, if you're getting ready to maybe walk the pup today, here's a look at Cowboy here, getting ready to maybe go for a walk today. And of course, heading through the morning hours, that's where we see those 80s make their return once again by 10 a.m. Noon, 86 degrees, just a little breezy out of the northeast. 10 to 13 miles an hour is what we're going to be watching for, so keep that in mind. But looking like a good day to go out for a walk. And as we approach the muggy meter, these are getting into better categories, at least not the oppressive air you can wear feel. Down more into that muggy and humid area is where we can see as we're going through about the next weekend and even into early next week, so keep that in mind as well. And throughout the next 7 days, going to hold those daytime highs in those upper 80s, around 90 degrees. Morning lows this weekend pretty comfortable in the 60s, and then bouncing back and forth between those 60s and the 70s heading into next week.
Well, it is day 10 of the federal government being closed, and for some federal employees, today was supposed to be payday. Coming up on Sunrise, we find out the latest from Washington on the government shutdown and its impacts on military pay. Welcome back, everyone. 6:12 is your time. Getting a live look from our SPID Skycam traffic flowing pretty nicely on that roadway. We're going to be checking in on the rest of them, of course, with the weather alongside of it with our meteorologist, Stephen Jones. He's standing by. But first, we head on to Washington, where it is day 10 of the government shutdown, and it appears lawmakers have made very little progress. Today is supposed to be payday for federal employees and members of our own military, and they're about to miss their first paycheck since the shutdown began.
Now, to talk more about this, we bring in Scripps News Group Nathaniel Reed. Good morning, Nate. So both the Democrats and the Republicans have angled for a standalone bill to ensure our military gets paid despite the shutdown. But what are the chances that this bill will actually pass?
Yeah, Brian and Michelle, I wish I was coming to you with happier news, but at this point, it does not seem likely at all. And that's for a couple of reasons. But one, the Senate and House of Representatives aren't really going to be in Washington before this coming Wednesday. They return to Washington on Tuesday of this week, at least the U.S. Senate does. They're out for the entire weekend. They adjourned last night, meaning that the possibility that military members are going to go without pay at their next paycheck on Wednesday certainly seems like a growing possibility. And furthermore, in the U.S. House of Representatives, House Speaker Mike Johnson has kept the House out since September 19th. They've been out for almost a whole month. During that time, the government has been shut down. There's little hope of reaching a bipartisan compromise at this stage. The message from Democrats on Capitol Hill to House Speaker Mike Johnson: bring the House of Representatives back. Even if we don't reopen the government, they still want to pay the troops. At this point, though, if the House of Representatives isn't in, it's all but impossible to pass a bill. Take a listen.
What House Republicans need to do is come back so we can address the military pay issue and reopen the government. I mean, this is an extraordinary thing. It's unbelievable. This is a crisis, both in terms of the government shutdown, the impact on the American people, the impact on aviation safety, the impact on public safety.
And look, House Speaker Mike Johnson has not said definitively if he's going to bring the House of Representatives back at all next week. The goal here to keep up the pressure on the U.S. Senate to pass this government funding bill. So far, it's failed 7 times. No word on when that 8th vote is coming, but no one's saying the 8th time's a charm. It's really unlikely to know. It's really hard to know, rather, Brian and Michelle, when the government's going to reopen for so many families, military families, families of federal workers. A lot of uncertainty. Again, the law guarantees them back pay. The Trump administration has disputed that, but there's no word on when this government shutdown is going to end. The conditions so far have not changed. When I spoke with Senate Majority Leader John Thune earlier this week, he told me he thinks that as more members of the military and government workers miss their paychecks, the pressure will just amp up on Democrats to reach a deal.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for keeping everyone updated during this time.
Now, we always appreciate talking to you, my friends. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.
Well, getting a good look over at Snoopy's Pier, thanks to Matthew CCAC, 6:15 a.m. right now, 81 degrees, winds out of the east, 11 miles an hour, and you can see starting to get a little more active out there this Friday morning as we're heading into the weekend. Of course, looking at how our Thursday stacked up, 91 degrees is where we hit that daytime high here in Corpus Christi, above the average of 87, and those morning lows also 7 degrees above average, coming in at 75 yesterday, supposed to be about 68, and that's where we will probably be going into these next couple of mornings, looking like those upper 60s. Of course, rain-wise, we definitely need quite a bit, coming up on 9.5 inches, shy of where we should be for this time in 2025. So hoping for more rain on the way, but for now in the 7-day forecast, not looking too likely. In your neighborhood, the hot spot's going to be Port Aransas as well as the Naval Air Station, coming in at 83 and 81 respectively. Of course, cooler inland as we head towards Hebronville as well as Beeville at 71 degrees, 74 here in town. Winds anywhere from the 5 to 10, maybe even upwards of 14 miles an hour there in Port Aransas. Out of the east-northeast, some of them a little variable visibility, looking pretty good as we're heading into our 6 a.m. hour. So looking pretty good if you're heading out the door. And those forecasted highs, you could expect the mid-80s once again along the coast thanks to some of that water-cooled air. But inland, going to see those 90s return once again, 94 over towards Orange Grove as well as George West, around that 90-degree mark once again here in Corpus Christi for our daytime high this Friday, October 10th. Of course, the next next 6 to 10 days. Also going to be pretty warm at that. That's bullseye, really, you could say, of high pressure and warmer conditions going to be bearing down on the central United States, including the Lone Star State, including, yes, the coastal bend. So going to see those upper 80s, potentially the 90s as well as we're heading into the middle of October and potentially that last third. But I've got high hopes as we head into Halloween that maybe we'll see some cooler weather as well as rain. Take a look at the next 7 days in terms of rain chances. Very unlikely, very stray chances at best. You see the slightest impression or improvement there by Monday afternoon into Tuesday morning is what we're going to be watching for, with a little bit more moisture that tries to work back in once again. But mainly that's just going to drive those overnight lows right back from the 60s into the 70s, which you can see pretty well on our 7-day forecast as well. Throughout the next couple of mornings, we see these 60s and those daytime highs really holding the entire 7-day forecast, and the upper 80s as well as around 90 degrees. And then they bounce back and forth just a little bit with that moisture working in and out from those upper 60s into those 70s for overnight lows.
Well, coming up on Sunrise, it is Friday. You might have some road trip plans and need to fill up. Don't worry, I've got the cheapest prices all around the coastal bend when we come back. Welcome back, folks. Well, it is Friday, and you might need to fill up that tank. Don't worry though, I've got the cheapest prices all around the coastal bend because we know how much they've been going up lately. All right, starting off with the national average, 307. That's actually down by 2 cents since Monday. Good news there. As for Texas, also saw a bit of a decline, $2.67 on that average, down by 6 cents since Monday. Here in Corpus Christi, we can always do better, right? It is $2.57. That's the cheapest one I found. Murphy, USA on Cimarron and Saratoga. As for our Portland friends, well, your cheapest price is $2.59, also at the Murphy, USA. That one is next to the Walmart over there. And that, folks, is down by almost 20 cents since Monday. Big drop there. And as for the island, cheapest price is $2.76 at most of the stations. There's a couple in Port A that are a little bit closer to that $2.90 range. As always, if you can find any cheaper prices than these guys, because they tend to fluctuate throughout the day, I'm going to stop and fill up while you can. As always, I'll have these posted on our website too, KrisTV.com.
Well, it is Friday morning, getting a good look at our USS Lexington cam. Thanks to First Community Bank, you can see the harbor bridge there, not completely colored up with the lights yet, but over the next few months, hopefully we'll see it lit up more and more. Traffic flowing pretty smoothly right now, and really across most of the roadways in Corpus Christi, sitting pretty good and green. Getting a closer look at the harbor bridge itself, good and green to and from Portland right now. As we're looking at Ocean Drive, SPID, as well as Saratoga there, mostly good and green since Ennis Stroussland has cleared up as well. Over towards Crosstown Expressway and Saratoga, keep in mind, maybe a slight slowdown there just to keep it in mind. And over towards Flower Bluff, looking pretty good right now, just the minor slowdown that you normally expect as you're heading towards the gate at the Naval Air Station, Corpus Christi. Of course, across some of those drive times to and from the island, from Cal Allen to downtown, as well as Portland to downtown, sitting anywhere from 22, 8, and 15 minutes respectively. So pretty good and green right now as you're heading out for your Friday morning. Of course, we'll have more news and weather coming up for you here soon.
I'm Tony Jaramillo on the south side, here with the Coastal Bend veteran whose new mission is providing nature therapy for veterans, and I'll tell you how.
Now, weather on the 6s.
Well, taking a look over there at our Snoopy Sky Cam, thanks to Matthew CCAC, 73 degrees out there, traffic flowing pretty nicely, just a few puffy cumulus clouds, but overall doesn't look like too much rain for the Coastal Bend as we're heading into our Friday, entering this beautiful weekend here in October, of course. Of course, getting a look at yesterday, 91 degrees is where we topped out at for that daytime high, 4 degrees above the average of 87. Morning lows about 7 degrees above average, coming in at 75, supposed to be 68 38. Either way, much above that record 44 degrees. Be probably pretty chilly here for October 10th. Set back in 2000, of course, but rainfall really what we need, coming up on 9.5 inches shy of where we should be for 2025. Of course, if you're getting ready to take out the pup for a walk, here's a look at Cowboy. Surely ready to go on a walk for this Friday to start his weekend as well. Getting a good look at some of those temperatures throughout the morning hours. You can see 82 there by 10 a.m., entering those middle 80s, even the upper 80s potentially by the time we're heading into that lunchtime hour. Just a small breeze out of the northeast, 10 to 15 miles an hour, or even this is saying 13, but surely those gusts could get up to about 15 miles an hour or so. For forecasted highs across your Friday, 90 degrees here in town, mid to upper 80s across the coast, 83 there's what it's saying for Port Aransas. I think you could see 85 or 6 degrees surely. More inland, you could see those mid 90s try to make their return. 94 for Alice as well as Orange Grove through George West, so just a little bit warmer, a good 10-degree spread almost across the entire coastal bend. For that heat risk conditions, you can see only minor as we're going into today, thanks to some drier air working in as well. That's going to even decrease a little bit tomorrow, going little to none across some of our communities, and then it returns just a little bit for that minor as we're heading into our Sundays as well. So something to keep in mind, as well as that rip current risk if you're planning any beach activities this weekend. For the Doppler radar, not picking up too much right now. We did have a little bit in our southern viewing area just throughout the past hour or so, but has since dissipated into the future tracker. You could see by about 7, 8 a.m. might see 1 or 2 more showers trying to pop up on the radar according to our model, especially towards the Kingsville area. Might be holding on to some of that activity until about the lunchtime time frame, so keep that in your mind if you have any plans in that area as we're heading through the morning hours. But into the afternoon, the evening, even the overnight hours, look at how it clears up on our futurecast pretty nicely out there. Here's dinner time. Tonight is where we might see just 1 leftover shower. I think the model's definitely overdoing it just a little bit, though. I think that's just going to be a little bit of cloud cover, if that. And as we go into our Saturday, look at all the clear skies we're going to have here across the coastal bend from east to west, south to north. Plenty of sunshine going to be on the way, thankfully, so just looking like a pretty good day. But of course, that drought monitor came out yesterday as well. Here's a look at last week's. You can see had that moderate drought, still have that moderate drought, and a little bit of an expansion on some of those abnormally dry conditions around the rest of the coastal bend. So 9.5 inches shy of where we should be. Drought monitor still not looking as good as we want it to, so definitely need the rain to make its way back into the area as we're heading into hopefully the back half and the last third, I should say, of October. Of course, that 7-day forecast not looking like too much rain on there. Plenty of sunshine definitely for the weekend. Overnight lows, though, feeling pretty comfortable in those 60s thanks to the drier air. Going to be bouncing back and forth between those 60s and 70s thanks to moisture going in and out, but daytime highs holding pretty stagnant in those upper 80s just by the 90-degree mark.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Coming up on Sunrise, from Oktoberfest fun to watching kites take flight, we have a look at what's going on around town in this week's Coastal Bend weekend.
Now, the local events and fun things to do. It's Coastal Bend Weekend with the Hoffmans.
Well, if you want a picture-perfect Coastal Bend weekend, look no further. We've got a full list of events happening in your neighborhood.
We'll start here in the Bay Area, your happy place for an Oktoberfest celebration.
Get ready to raise your steins. Blackbeard's On the Beach is bringing the party to the Coastal Bend with its annual Oktoberfest this Sunday.
Enjoy live music, face and pumpkin painting booths, games for the kiddos, a costume contest, prizes, and food and drink specials. It all starts at 5 p.m. and goes on until 9 p.m.
The Unitarian Universalist Church of Corpus Christi is getting into the fall spirit with a pumpkin patch.
Opening day is this Sunday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and they'll be selling pumpkins all the way through Halloween.
Heading over to Robstown, Cotton Fest is back for its 40th year.
Get ready for live entertainment, a barbecue cook-off, local vendors, and plenty of family fun.
The party starts Saturday at 3 p.m. at the Richard Borchard Regional Fairgrounds.
And if you're feeling the ocean breeze, the Port Aransas Fall Kite Fly takes off Saturday, hosted by Fly It Port A Kite Shop.
Setup begins at 10 a.m. near Beach Marker 13. Bring a kite or just enjoy the Sky High show, weather permitting, that is.
And if you're looking for a deal this weekend, the USS Lexington Museum is celebrating 250 years of the U.S. Navy with a special offer.
Starting today through Monday, general admission is just $2.50, and museum memberships are $25 off.
Plus, a free commemoration ceremony will be held Monday at 1 p.m. in Hangar Bay 2.
Over at Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History, it's Community Hero Day this Saturday.
That means military, teachers, and first responders get in free with ID, and family members get half off.
And if you're looking to give back while you get your steps in, the Coast Bend Blood Center's Run for Blood 5K and 10K is happening Saturday morning at 7:30 over at Waters Edge Park.
Runners get a slice of pizza and a beer ticket, and there will be food trucks, vendors, prizes, and a whole lot of cheering.
And we, the Hoffmans, will be your MCs for the morning. And it's all for a great cause, supporting the Blood Center's life-saving mission.
Well, you know, they say there's plenty of fish in the sea. Well, there's plenty more events that are happening all around the Coastal Bend, and that's on our website, ChrisTV.com.
Exactly. And as always, folks, if you would like your event featured on a future Coastal Bend Weekend segment, make sure you dive into our DMs and send us a message.
Well, getting a good look at our USS Lexington cam thanks to First Community Bank. Looking at the Harbor Bridge, traffic flowing pretty good. Weather looking at 74 degrees. Winds out of the north 6 miles an hour right now, of course. Looking at the rain chances for today, though, looking mainly like this morning. Could see some rain, and especially for some of our inland communities, but that's only stray at best. So 9 times out of 10, not going to be needing the umbrella as we're heading through our Friday. Getting ready for the weekend, of course. For right now, sitting at 74. Humidity, though, 93%, still feeling the mugginess in the air, but that should dry out a little bit as we're heading into tonight and then especially into tomorrow. Today, time high looking at 89 degrees, potentially 90 degrees if we get a little bit more sunshine out and about for our Friday across the Coastal Bend. Of course, the current radar showing you, looking at just a little bit of activity, and the future tracker showing you, here's a little bit of activity trying to pop up in our southern communities, so something to keep an eye on as we go through that lunchtime time frame into the afternoon and evening. That's where we look to literally clear up across the entire area with cloud cover and the radar starting to quiet down as we head into it. Of course, I'll have a good look at the weekend and that full 7-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
Now, 20 minutes of non-stop news, sponsored by Ewald Kubota.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for joining us for our 20 minutes of nonstop news with the Hoffmans. I'm Brian Hoffman.
And I'm Michelle Hoffman. So we have plenty of neighborhood news for you this morning. But first, let's check in with meteorologist Stephen Jones with a look at the roadways. Hey, good morning, Stephen.
Mr. Jones.
Well, good morning, Brian and Michelle. Looking like a pretty good Friday out there. Entering the weekend, it is the end of the week, of course. So looking pretty good as far as the traffic is concerned as well. You can see on our SPID cam here, flowing pretty nice there along SPID and really across most of Corpus Christi and the Coastal Bend, flowing pretty good this Friday morning. Getting a good look at the entire region, you can see greens are going to be on the map for you if you're getting ready to head out the door this morning. A closer look at the Harbor Bridge out there to and from Portland, sitting pretty good and green, as we like to say. For some of our major roadways, Ocean Drive green, SPID sitting pretty good. Same for Saratoga as well. We did have a slight slowdown over towards the Crosstown Expressway junction with it, but since has started to clear up as well. Over towards Flower Bluff, looking mostly good, except Waldron Road does have a slowdown to keep in mind if you're heading out the door this morning, as well as that slight slowdown heading up towards the Naval Air Station's gate, of course. And some of those drive times for you looking pretty good, anywhere from 8 to 22 minutes, depending if you're heading from downtown to the island, Portland to downtown, or of course Cal Allen to downtown. That's going to be all for your traffic report, but more news and weather heading your way in just a bit.
I'm Stephanie Molina, your neighborhood news reporter in Kingsville. Chris 6 News received a call about the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation Sister Elizabeth Clinic is closing. I took it upon myself to find out what led to its closure and how neighbors are reacting to that news.
The Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation's clinic in Kingsville closed on Tuesday, October 7th. The clinic sent letters to neighbors notifying them of its closure. The Sister Elizabeth Clinic opened in 2022.
No 2-week notice, no 3-week notice. Just shut down.
A lifelong Kingsville neighbor who preferred to stay anonymous says having the nearby clinic available was a blessing. But now that it's closed, access to a local medical care has been limited for them.
It does hurt. And just being somebody I'm a low income, so it's just very difficult.
The letter also stated patients who had appointments after Tuesday will be contacted to reschedule their visit at their Corpus Christi clinic or through telehealth. In an effort to find out more information as to why it closed, I reached out to Claiborne County Judge Rudy Madrid.
Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation, they did abandon our community. You know, they reallocated their resources and took their services.
Judge Madrid says it was the foundation's decision to close.
They said they could no longer support it. They didn't have enough providers, and the funding was decreased. So they started laying off folks.
The facility is owned by the county, who provided the space to the foundation at no cost. The foundation told Chris 6 News they had received no additional financial funding from the county to cover staff costs. Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation CEO Bill Helcher says they had reallocated staff and cut anything they could to make it work. But Judge Madrid wanted to go a different direction.
We were requested to leave the facility so it could be used. And as he said, he wanted to pursue a different solution. And so we honor that choice, and we simply do not have funds or the means to start a clinic somewhere else in town.
Helcher explained that the clinic attended 180 patients, most uninsured, within the past year, adding that there is other options in town and urged the community to use those. Judge Madrid says he plans to move forward with the clinic.
Claiborne County Judge Rudy Madrid plans to reopen as soon as possible and will let neighbors know who the new operators of the facility will be by next week. In Kingsville, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Stephanie Molina, Chris 6 News.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Appreciate that. So, folks, we have plenty of neighborhood news to get to this morning.
Yeah, from water level concerns causing Beeville officials to declare a local state of disaster to Youth Leadership Summit helping students build essential life skills. We have you covered in your neighborhood check-in.
The water woes of the Coastal Bend continue. On Thursday, the city officially entered a water emergency, or Stage 4, now calling on the state to assist in funding alternative and secondary sources of water. According to the interim city manager, the city is currently using 3 million gallons of water per day. But under Stage 4, they are calling on residents and larger users to bring that usage down to 2.5 million gallons per day. And while the city still needs to amend its current Stage 3 ordinance to reflect this new declaration, the amendment would come with new penalties for users. Under Stage 3, a first violation gets you a written warning followed by a $100 fine, which would increase with each subsequent penalty. But if amended, there is no warning.
Strong communities start with strong youth, and one Coastal Bend nonprofit is helping students turn potential into purpose. Esperanza de Tejas is hosting its second annual Amor y Esperanza Leadership Summit, a free event for students grades 7 through 12. Founder and CEO Brianna Davis calls it a reverse job fair, where students lead conversations with local organizations to build skills, confidence, and connections. The summit also covers financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and how to market themselves for future careers. And each student leaves with a professional outfit ready to look the part.
The Amor y Esperanza Leadership Summit is on Saturday, October 18th at the Boys and Girls Club at the Coastal Bend. The summit starts at 8:30 in the morning, and just go ahead and click on ChrisTV.com to find out how you can sponsor or register. In downtown, I'm your Sunrise Neighborhood News reporter, Michaela Chavez, Chris 6 News.
I'm Tony Jaramillo, your neighborhood news reporter on the South Side. Military folks will know the term rucking. I'm here with Ernest Delez, who started a nonprofit to encourage veterans to do therapy out in nature, and he's asking for the community support.
And essentially a ruck is just a walk with a backpack and some type of weight in it.
In a joint effort with the Downtown Lions Club, Ernest Delez, founder of Whiskey Juliet, will host a ruck event this Sunday for veterans' mental health awareness. Telez says he hopes this rucking event they're taking part of is just the beginning for Whiskey Juliet. He's trying to raise funds and find donors for those future events, aiming to kick off in the summer of 2026.
Travel expenses, food for when they're there, equipment if special equipment's needed for like hiking or even like these kayaks and canoes. We're going to be providing them, not the veterans. So.
The event takes place this Sunday, October 12th at 9:30 a.m. at Cole Park. For more information, look for this story on our website, ChrisTV.com. On the South Side, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Tony Jaramillo, Chris 6 News.
Well, 6:46 a.m. taking a look at Port Aransas, Sand Dollar City over there. You can see a little bit of cloud cover off the coast, 73 degrees, not too bad. As we're heading into our Friday morning, of course, over the past 10 hours have seen a decent cool down. Mostly has been over the past hour or so, from 82 degrees at 8 p.m., 80 by 4, 79 there at 5, 74 as we kicked off the 6 a.m. show or so. So a nice cool down in the past hour. And as we look in your neighborhood, the cool spot's going to be Beeville right now, as well as Hebronville, coming in at 71 degrees and 70 degrees respectively. A little bit warmer along the coast, 81 for both Port Aransas as well as over at the Naval Air Station. Winds anywhere around from 6 miles an hour up to about 11 miles an hour. Also calm over there in Hebronville right now, and visibility is looking good across most of the coastal bend. Of course, daytime highs expected to rise into those mid to upper 80s along the coast as you head inland, 90s and even those mid 90s trying to make their return as you make your way over towards George West, Orange Grove, and Alice, entering 94 degrees is their expected daytime high for our Friday. So a little bit warm, definitely above average. And unfortunately, as we head through the next 6 to 10 days, you can see also above average, likely warmer, gonna be bearing down on the central United States, the Lone Star State, and yes, here in the coastal bend as well. So expect those 90s to still stay in the forecast, at least the upper 80s as we head into this middle of October, I should say. For our current Doppler radar, looking pretty clear across the coastal bend. We had a little bit of activity in some of our southern viewing area just about throughout the past couple of hours, I should say. But as we go into the next few hours, could still see 1, 2, maybe 3 stray showers out there. Heading into that 8 to 10 a.m. time frame between Corpus Christi and Kingsville wants to pop up just a little bit, even towards that lunchtime time frame. Kingsville holding on to just a little bit of activity, as well as our southern viewing area, but into the dinner time frame and overnight hours, you can see how it clears out even the cloud cover pretty nicely for starting off our weekend and into Saturday. Plenty of sunshine on the way, but like I said, that rip current risk is going to be a little bit elevated along the coast, so something to keep in mind if you were planning a beach trip for this weekend. Going to be plenty warm, plenty of sunshine for it, so looking good as far as the weather. Just something else to keep in mind, that rip current risk. Of course, that 7-day forecast going to have us entering those lower or upper 60s for overnight lows into the weekend, upper 80s, lower 90s for daytime highs, and then bouncing around a little bit for overnight lows between moisture coming back and forth into the coastal bend as we head into next week.
Well, if Halloween horror films don't have you screaming, well, this year's candy prices might just do the trick. Scripps News Group's consumer reporter John Matarese takes a look at which treats will cost you more this year and how you can save so you don't waste your money.
If you're handing out candy to trick-or-treaters, that bag of sweets will probably cost you more this year. But what's inside the bag will really determine how much more you'll be paying.
Here at Fawn Candy,
have a great day. You too. Thank you.
they've been selling and making candy since 1946.
People use them as favors for holiday parties.
Staffers have been trying to keep prices as low as possible this year, despite soaring cocoa costs. But manager Tricia Rayburn refuses to use cheaper ingredients. So she's offering more non-chocolate options to help families on a budget.
We do some of the other candy that is not chocolate.
Supply chain expert Pawan Joshi says a shortage of cocoa from West Africa is the main driver of higher chocolate prices.
The rainfall has been lower. There's also been a disease that's been going through the crop. And just to give you a context, West Africa produces about 60 to 70% of the world's cocoa supply.
Research from the financial services firm Empower shows candy prices are 8% higher than last year and 20% higher than just 3 years ago. It also found shoppers plan to spend a boo-worthy $58 on candy alone.
So if you're really looking to save this year, I would not get chocolate. I would get those sweeter things. Maybe it's Jolly Ranchers or Skittles.
Smart shopping expert Trey Bodge says bigger discounts come closer to Halloween, so hold off if you can. If you're stocking up now, do a price comparison online before you buy. If you have lots of Halloween traffic, buy candy at a wholesale club. On the flip side, if you don't have many kids around, stick with smaller bags so you don't overbuy. Fawn Candy's Tricia suggests giving smaller but still high-quality treats.
We have all kinds of gift ideas from every price range.
That way you don't waste your money.
That is the real thing.
That is a real thing.
John Matarese, Scripps News Group.
Now, 6 things to know before you go.
The winner of the Nobel Peace Prize will be announced today. The award goes to the person or group that has worked towards, quote, fraternity between the nations and the abolition or reduction of standing armies and the formation and spreading of peace congresses, end quote. Now, there's a lot of speculation on if President Trump will receive the award because Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of a peace plan. Trump received multiple nominations this year, along with 337 other candidates.
The International Union for Conservation of Nature is set to release a new list today of the world's most threatened species. The so-called Red List covers plants and animals that are at risk of extinction. It's meant to help set a global agenda for where to focus conservation efforts. Last year's Red List determined that more than a quarter of the nearly 170,000 species it studied were considered threatened.
The Senate passed its annual defense policy bill. The National Defense Authorization Act passed Thursday on a vote of 77 to 20. Senators spent hours working through amendments before the final vote. One of the key measures adopted would end the authorization for the use of military force in Iraq. It was also included in the House's version of the package passed last month. The House and Senate will negotiate to resolve the differences between the two packages. The final version must pass both chambers before the end of the year.
Sprouts Farmers Market is recalling its smoked mozzarella pasta salad because it could be contaminated with listeria. The pasta salad was sold at the chain's deli service counter and its grab-and-go section in at least 24 states between August 31st and October 7th. They have use-by dates ranging from October 10th to October 29th, and you should throw the product out or return it to the store for a refund. No illnesses have been reported to date.
The Taft City Council voted to approve a resolution in which the city will provide funding for the defense of its former city secretary. On Wednesday, Chris Six reported that interim city secretary Jessica Gonzalez is facing criminal charges for failing to respond to a public information request. The vote Thursday means the city will pay for Gonzalez's criminal defense, with the city attorney noting that it is due to the alleged offense being tied to her professional duties. However, the resolution also specifies that Gonzalez would be required to repay all legal expenses
if she's found guilty.
The city of Corpus Christi will be hosting their Litter Critter Free Cleanup event this weekend. It will take place Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the West Oso neighborhood. That's on the 1100 block of Bloomington Street. Items that are accepted are brush, bulky items, household trash, tires, and metal items. And items that are not accepted are household hazardous waste and concrete. Commercial hauling is also not allowed. For more information, visit cctexas.com.
On to what's trending now. A true Swiftie is getting major attention for her spooky and sparkly tribute to Taylor Swift. She turned her yard into a Life of a Showghoul spectacle, a play on the title of Swift's latest album, The Life of a Showgirl. The display is full of skeletons in bedazzled costumes, haunted versions of Swift's album covers, and even nods to her fiancé, Travis Kelce, and the couple's cats. The Swiftie says the best part has been the sense of community it's created among fans.
I haven't listened to the new album at all, or even the other one that came out before that, so I'm a little behind on some of the references. I feel so bad.
I can't really name any Swift songs. All right, Steven, you're on the spot now. Any Swiftie songs? And if so, please sing them for us.
You know,
He's like, I don't know
if I know
any.
it that well, but I think she has one that's called Hey Steven, you know, so I gotta go with that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, that was
Tell
good,
me you know the words by heart, though. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
you know, not so much, but
I think that was in her breakup song era, though.
Oh.
So, ooh.
it's okay.
Hey,
It's
Steven.
okay. It's been a while now. No, but of course, yeah, it's a Good Friday. You know, that's pretty fun though. That, you know, a little tribute to Taylor Swift involving Taylor Swift and Halloween. Wouldn't have expected that crossover myself.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty cool.
They get so creative with all of that.
yeah, but heading into October, I'm looking for some cooler temperatures. They're just not there yet,
all are.
unfortunately. You know, still sitting in those upper 80s, still sitting in those 90s. Of course, overnight lows right now sitting at 73 degrees, 6:56 a.m. Live over there at Snoopy's Pier. Thanks to Matthew CCAC getting some good color in the sky now. Thanks to the sun coming up, rising 81 degrees there at Snoopy's Pier. Of course, 73 here in downtown is what we're looking at. But those dew points pretty muggy out and about. 70s along the entire coast. Most of the coastal bend, in fact, in 70s for those dew points. Feeling it out there. 69 over in Orange Grove. 67 for Beeville is going to be our driest air, if you want to call it that. It is still pretty humid out there. A little bit of moisture for storms to work with, but overall looking unlikely for today. So if you're looking at that dog walking forecast, here's a look at Cowboy ready to go on his walk here in spooky season as we're entering the middle of October, of course. Daytime highs, or not daytime highs, but where we could be temperature wise is what I should say, into those 80s as we're heading through the morning hours. 85 by 11, 86, and even those upper 80s entering the area by the time you're heading out for lunch. Winds not too bad out of the northeast, about 10 to 13 miles an hour or so. Rain chances looking pretty minimal like we talked about, even though we do have the moisture in place. Just a stray chance as we're going into this morning for here in Corpus Christi as well as Alice is what it's looking like. Even towards Kingsville could see that stray shower, but going into tomorrow or tonight and tomorrow, you're looking pretty dry as far as rain is concerned. For the current Doppler radar, you can see where we did have one shower off towards our southern viewing community a little bit ago over the past hour or so, has since dissipated, but a little bit more could be on the way as we're heading into 7, 8, and 9 a.m. Take a look at our futurecast where it has those showers and storms in between about Corpus Christi and Kingsville. Even through that lunchtime hour wants to hold on to just a little bit of activity for some of our southern viewing areas. So keep that in mind as you're heading out the door today and into this evening. That's where we see it really start to clear up across the entire area with plenty of sunshine on the way as we're heading into our Saturday, luckily, and getting a good look at that 7-day forecast. That's where we're going to have those daytime highs really holding off into those upper 80s and around that 90-degree mark. Overnight lows in those upper 60s, bouncing back and forth between the 70s and 60s thanks to some moisture working in and out of the area. Unfortunately, not going to lead to too much rain into the area, so just keep this in mind, looking like a good weather forecast as we head through the next 7 days.
Yeah, especially with all the outdoor events that are happening. So thank you so much for that, Stephen. And folks, thank you so much for joining us on Chris 6 Sunrise. We hope you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend.
We will see you Monday.